Hi, I'm Laura. We make videos about parenting and mental health, and today I want to talk about the possibility of bonding issues after a traumatic birth or when you're struggling with postnatal depression or anxiety. There are a lot of expectations on us when it comes to being a parent. Even before we're pregnant, we hear a lot about the extremely immediate and unbelievable bond that you're going to experience when you first see or hold your baby. It's almost something that is a total given in society and something that we expect every mother to experience, and the idea of any mother not experiencing that immediate rush of bond and connection and love is almost considered a bit of a monster. And I think this is an issue in our society because from my experience, both personally and from speaking to others, there are a lot of women who do not feel that immediate bond and that immediate overwhelming rush of love that they expect. To give you a bit of a background on my own experience, my son was born in April 2013 by emergency caesarean section. I had been in labour for about 12 hours, I'd had an epidural, and my son had, there was meconium in my waters, he was in obvious distress and his heart rate kept dipping up and down. I was very distressed as well during that time because the nurses had to, every time his heart would dip down, the nurses would try to move me to perhaps alleviate some pressure on the cord and get his heart rate to come up. I wasn't able to move myself because of the epidural that I had put in. Eventually, much to my relief to be honest, because I was so worried about my son, they decided that I was going to go for an emergency caesarean section. When I was in the theatre, the doctors and nurses did a fine job of the actual surgery and of my son being born, but unfortunately, because of the emergency section and because of perhaps some thoughtlessness on the part of the medical professionals, I wasn't able to see or hold my son for a good 20 minutes. About 20 minutes after he was born, after they'd done some initial checks, they brought him over to me, but he was held, I would say, at least 5 metres away from me. I didn't have my lenses in because I'd had to take them out for surgery, so he was just sort of a blurry kind of little person, little creature, and I didn't really feel much connection at all, other than huge relief that he was born and that he was safe. While I was being sewn up and everything put back in the right place, my son and his dad were ushered out of the room and taken outside while they finished sewing me up. I'm yet to find out what the reason was for this. My husband tells me that they didn't do any further tests or checks on my son during that time. They were just sitting in recovery and waiting for me, so I can't really see any reason why that had to happen and why they couldn't stay in the room with me, perhaps a little nearer to me, so that I could start to look at and bond a little bit with my son. One of the things we really missed out on was skin-to-skin contact. There is so much research about the importance of skin-to-skin contact when it comes to bonding, and I wasn't able to have that. I think doctors and nurses at the time would say that that was because I was what they called fully blocked. I'd been given slightly too much anaesthetic during the emergency, and I wasn't able to move anything at all below my neck. However, as far as I'm aware, there's no reason why my husband couldn't have held my son onto my chest, and we could have still had that initial connection, but none of that was offered or discussed at the time. My feelings about my son were very different. When I did start to first get to hold him and feed him, the way I felt was very different to what I expected to feel. It was about 6 to 8 hours before I got to hold him because of the being fully blocked. And when I did get to hold him, I burst into tears. The midwife asked me why, and I said it was because I felt like I was meeting him for the very first time in that moment, and I did feel that way. But I didn't feel the overwhelming love that I had expected to feel. I had expected to immediately look at my baby and feel overwhelmed with emotion and love and protective instinct greater than anything else I could ever have imagined. But instead I mainly just felt anxious, worried, and the fact that I suddenly felt like I didn't feel right about my child and I didn't feel this overwhelming love led to huge anxiety, which over the next few weeks got worse and worse and worse, led to anxiety attacks, which then got me into the cycle of anxiety and ultimately led to my diagnosis of postnatal depression. During my recovery, thanks to something that one of the mental health nurses that was taking care of me said to me, I began to see this mother-child bond in a really new light. Obviously I was incredibly panicked that I didn't feel bonded and I didn't feel the overwhelming love straight away during those first few weeks. But one of the professionals looking after me put it very, very simply to me, and she said, "You've just met. At no other point in your life would you expect to meet somebody for the first time and feel an overwhelming emotion towards them. You've just met your baby, you're just getting to know him, and your bond is going to change and develop and increase over time." And being told that felt like a massive weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, and I was able to think a bit more clearly and a bit more logically, and it was one of the breakthrough moments that helped me along in my quite long and painful recovery. Just say to any of you who have just had a new baby and maybe you aren't feeling that overwhelming, all-encompassing, powerful love and devotion that you were expecting to feel. Maybe you feel numb or scared or anxious or sad or depressed instead. I just want you to know that that's okay, that doesn't mean you're a monster, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to have an incredible bond with your child in the future. So I was able to alleviate my anxiety symptoms. I was able to see that the love I had for my son was there and had possibly been there all along, but it was kind of all buried under this pile of fear and anxiety that had come from the experience of being a new mum, from hormones, from the traumatic birth we had, etc. And knowing that and realising that was just the most incredible feeling, and having those moments of breakthrough and bonding and pure love with my child are still one of the most happiest memories of my life, and are certainly the happiest memories that I have from the time when I was recovering. And just to summarise about how I feel 5 years on, my son is now coming up to 5, he'll be 5 in April, and our bond and our relationship is absolutely incredible. I could not love him more if I tried. I am, dare I say it, completely overwhelmed by it, just as everyone promises you will be. And with every day that he grows and every wonderful thing that he does and every moment we experience together, that bond is increasing and increasing and increasing, and I don't feel like it's ever going to stop growing, to be honest. So I do feel like we're very well connected, and my experience at the beginning of motherhood hasn't had any negative effect on our relationship now. So I just want to give hope to anyone who's worried about how they initially feel about their baby. Everything will improve, and especially if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, once you treat those symptoms, all the natural feelings of love will just come to you. But try not to put pressure on yourself. Please don't beat yourself up, and please don't think that you're a bad mum just because you don't feel that initial bond that everyone talks about. I'm going to be back in a future video to share some tips about how you can increase your bond with your child whilst you're in recovery from a perinatal mental health issue. So please subscribe to find out when that video's up. Bye!